Hey, this is Alex with the Unbiased Trailblazer podcast. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at Unbiased Blazers. There's a link in our bio for our Discord server where you can join in on the discussions, give us your takes, give us comments, or simply just join in on a podcast. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please rate and review our show. And if you're listening on Spotify, there's a new feature where you can rate our show as well. Now, let's get to the show. Rip City, baby.
3, 2, 1,
0.
0.
Lift off and the clock has started.
What is going on, Rip City? This is episode 38 of the Unbiased Trailblazer podcast. I got Fawad here with me today. How you doing, Fawad?
I'm great. How are you today?
I actually had today off. I had a extra holiday to burn off, vacation day to burn off, so I chose today to do it. So I got a nice little 3-day weekend and get to talk some Blazer basketball with you. How you doing?
That's lucky. I had to get up at 6 today and commute like 3 hours on a bus and come back.
That does not sound fun at all.
Yeah, it wasn't great, but I got a good nap on the way there at least.
Those bus ride naps are the best.
Yeah.
Just as long as you don't get stabbed. So this is going to be a fairly short podcast. There's not much to talk about, unfortunately. I'm sure most of everybody that does listen is aware that the season has kind of gone downhill fast, and it's to be expected. But I figured we could talk about, a couple of the players that we're getting to see a lot more minutes of that we wouldn't normally see. So I kind of wanted to jump into that. First and foremost, I thought we would talk about actually something I've been surprised as of late, and that's Drew Eubanks. This last game against Washington, which we actually won, he had a very, very, very good game. I watched most of the game. I missed a little bit of the first quarter, and then towards the end, I had other things I had to do. But from what I saw, I do think Eubanks could be a very feasible, very cheap backup center. Sit on the bench, come in 10, 15 minutes, and just give us a little bit. Have you paid much attention to him?
Yeah, so I got a little bit busy again with my final interview for med school, which just finished yesterday. I think yesterday was Sunday, right? Yeah. Or we're recording on Monday today, so it was yesterday for me. Anyways, yeah, so I only saw one game with him, and I thought he was all right. I think it was against Minnesota, but just based on his numbers, he's definitely seems like he's been serviceable. Again, like you said, last game against the Wizards, he had 20 and 12 and 3 assists, so that's really good, really surprising. I didn't expect much from him. I was surprised we even signed him. I didn't know I didn't know too much about him, but I did know that the Spurs traded him away to the Raptors, who waived him immediately. So I thought, typically guys that get waived immediately, they're not good because, and especially when a team like Toronto doesn't give someone a chance. I thought he had nothing in him. I didn't think of it much when we signed him, but he's definitely been a pleasant surprise.
So yeah, like you said, Eubanks was traded. He was waived, and like you said, usually when a team waives a player of his caliber, it's usually because he's not serviceable for them. These last 10 games, just the last 10 games, he's averaging almost 10 points, 8 rebounds. Obviously he's not the type of guy that you're going to expect a double-double out of. There's not anything that he truly excels at. He's a big guy, I believe. Let me see if I can see. He is actually, I guess he's not as big as I thought he was. He's only 6'9". He looks a lot bigger than, I guess, 6'9", because I'm surprised by that. But I think he's just, like I said, he's a type of player that you can just sign to a minimum contract, have him on the bench either for depth or even just to be like your backup center. You're not going to get anything crazy from him. I think Saturday night was the most we'll probably ever see from him. He had 20 points and 12 rebounds. So, it's there that he could do that, but That to me seems more of like an anomaly than anything. But I am curious to see what they do, and I truly don't know how the 10-day contracts work because, like you said, he's on his third one. So I'm not sure how it's going to work out. I think he could be a decent backup. Now, if there's something better that we could get, then I'm all for that. But I think that he's someone we could try to extend or at least look into next season. Let's move on to another player that we've been seeing a little bit more of, and that is Brandon Williams. Now, did you look into seeing if we did sign him to a contract?
I'm pretty sure that was a 2-year deal. I'll just double check while we're talking right now.
Okay.
But yeah, just go ahead.
So Brandon Williams, he is an undersized guard. He's 6'2", so that's Portland's specialty. But let me say this. Offense is not an issue when it comes to Brandon Williams. That guy can score. He can, and he in the G League, I think he averaged something like 20 something points a game in the G League. He can without a doubt score. These last 10 games, he's averaging 15 points. He can hit threes. He can hit deep threes. Like I said, he's kind of undersized, so it's the same issue we're always running into with these undersized guards. But like I said, offense is not an issue for him. We haven't got to see a lot of him, so I can't really evaluate how he is on defense. But from what I've seen, his offense is definitely there. And if we did sign him to a 2-year deal, it's going to be interesting to see what happens because he's only 22, so he's pretty young, and he definitely can score. So, did you find anything yet?
Yeah. Okay, there we go. Yeah, Woj said Blazers are signing Brandon Williams on a 2-year, 2-way contract. So we
Gotcha.
will have
Okay.
him as our 2-way next year as well.
Gotcha. So, have you paid attention to Brandon Williams at all?
Yeah, again, I've only seen one game this past week, but just looking at his numbers, maybe it's not translating, but it seems like he only had, 1 or 2 games where he was actually efficient. The other games he's shooting like 39%, 23%. So they don't seem, too impressive to me right off the bat. Maybe watching him play is a little bit different. But yeah, again, like an undersized guard, it doesn't get me too excited. We've had more than our fair share over the years in Portland. Next year we'll have Dame and Ant. At least we'll probably be able to get another guard if we need one. So like, I don't have too many thoughts on him. We can develop him for next year, but I don't think he fits into our long-term plans really significantly in any way. So, yeah, that's pretty much it.
And one thing I try to not do is to be like a prisoner of the moment and like the games against Minnesota where he had 21 and 27, and then I go and see all these comments about how great he is and how we need to be starting him and playing him so much. It's like there's a reason why he was in the G League. There's a reason why he's only getting playing time now. Could he eventually develop into something? Sure, he could. He could. But just because he had 2 really pretty good games, it's just like us as fans, we need to take a step back and really be like, okay, why are we seeing him on this tanking team? Like, why is he here and why is he not on another team playing? And there's a reason to it. So he definitely has potential to be a good offensive player. It remains to be seen if that's something that we can build from or not. And I guess we have another 2 years for, or does that count this year? That the 2
Yeah,
year.
so this year and then 1
Okay,
more.
so we got 1 more year to see what we can do with him. One last guy I wanted to talk about real quick. Actually, we can talk about 2 real quick because one's just gonna be really quick. I know we had talked about CJ Ellaby, taking some strides. To me, I was never really big on it. I could admit that he was playing a little bit better, but to me, he's gone back. He's regressed. He's back to the way he was. It just seems like he tries hard and he is decent. He is decent when it comes to defense with the effort he provides. And he can definitely jump and get some rebounds, but there's no reason that we should re-sign him. I would rather have Brandon Williams than CJ Ellaby. I mean, I've never truly been impressed by him. There was a small stretch where he was playing decent, and I admitted that he was playing a little bit better, but to me, it's just he's not an NBA player.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much said it. Like, he's been truly awful pretty much the entire short career. Even that stretch where he looked decent, it just like the bar was so low that
Yes.
he was playing decent relative to that. Even at that point, I wasn't confident that he would get another contract, another vetman from anyone. Definitely not us, but I don't think any team would have signed him even if he kept that up. Maybe someone would give him a shot with a one year deal, but like he's back to actually honestly, he's probably still not back to how bad he was before. I think he was like absolutely terrible. But yeah, I don't think he's an NBA caliber player at this point. Maybe a year off will let him develop more. Maybe he'll go to the G League, something maybe overseas. And then maybe he can develop and come back. But at this point, I don't think he's going to get another shot from us or anyone else.
Yeah, and I mean, let's be honest. We've given him a fair this season, especially a fair amount of playing time to try
Yeah,
to
he's been
develop.
playing like 30 minutes since everything happened.
And to me, it's just not there. I mean, maybe I'm not seeing something that other people are seeing, but to me, it's not there. One person I did want to talk about though before we wrap this part up was Keon Johnson. Obviously, he's about the only bright spot that we got in that Norman Powell and Covington trade, and really, it wasn't that bright of a spot. But watching him play, I do see some of the things that people were saying about him. He is freakishly athletic. He can jump and keep going up. Him and Greg Brown together, I think we probably have the two most high jumping players in the NBA. Like they fly. There's
I mean, we have
I've
Simons too.
and Simons. That's true. Yeah. There's been some defensive possessions where I've seen him do very well in. There's as of late, he's been shooting the three better. I know a lot of people said he wasn't a very good 3-point shooter. As of late, he's been shooting better. He's very raw. We haven't seen much from him, but there is potential there. I do see it. That's the kind of potential that we don't see in CJ Ellaby that we do see here, at least to me. And maybe I'm wrong, but he's definitely athletic. It's probably going to take a while to develop, but he's young. He's 20, so I think it's a decent piece to have. I still think that trade was terrible, and the more I think about it, I buy into that conspiracy theory that Jody was just trying to help out Steve Ballmer because that trade still makes no sense to me. But do you have anything on Keon Johnson you want to say?
I'm just keeping my expectations. I don't want to say low, but like realistic. He's had a couple of decent games, but I'm not putting. I mean, it's like 3 games, so there's not much to go off of. Even if he played like amazing in those games, then it's just too small of a sample size to really say anything. I think
Yeah.
next year is when we'll actually be able to have some thoughts on his potential and his ceiling and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think getting him as much playing, which honestly to me, I think we play him over CJ Ellaby. I think CJ Ellaby's a lost cause. Let's just get rid of him. Let's move on from him. Let Keon play and develop as much as he can, get some experience. But let's move on from all that. The one bright spot that we've had this season since the trade deadline has been Josh Hart, and I think a lot of us, when that CJ trade happened, we were okay with the value that we got, the first round pick and Josh Hart. Since he's been here, I know there's been a couple games where he hasn't done well, and let's be honest, he's on a team that honestly these players, there's not much you can expect from Josh Hart, except for last Saturday when we played the Wizards and we beat them. That man was psycho mode. He finished with 44 points. He had 8 rebounds. He had 6 assists. Shooting lights out from the three. He shot 66% from three. He had 4 steals. He's kind of to me like Norman Powell. I think he will fit very well with Dame. He doesn't need the ball in his hand. He plays good defense. He's a smart player. He can play make a little bit. I I think we have a player here in Josh Hart that going forward in the future is someone that we must keep if we have any plans of trying to win a championship with Lillard. I know there was rumors of people saying that we'll try to trade him in the offseason. To me, this is a Norman Powell type player that you need on your team that fits well with Dame. I don't know about you, but for me, that's what it's been.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything. I've been very high on him since before we traded for him, but definitely since we've traded for him. I think he fits with Dame perfectly, and we don't even need him to be incredibly consistent on offense. Obviously, if he is, that's amazing. Like, if he can have the random 20, 30-point game when everyone's healthy, that's more than what I'm asking for. But even if he can just hit the open three and play consistent defense and, make the right pass, that's all I want from him, and I think that would fit our team perfectly. I don't know if he's playing the 3 right now or the 4, but I think long term we can play him at the 4. Something
I mean,
we
yeah, he played both. He played 3 and 4 with New
Yeah,
Orleans. So
with New Orleans he did play both. I think he fits our team very well in whatever role we need him to play. So very excited for him. Can't wait to see him next year with a healthy roster.
yeah, and I think seeing him with Dame, seeing him with Nurk, I think it's gonna be. What did he play when Nurk was here? I can't remember.
I think
Did
he
Nurk
did
go
play a
out?
couple games.
Okay,
Uh, I'll I'll double check that because Nurk's only missed like 5 games so far, maybe more.
not much more than 5, but yeah, I mean, like you said, Dame, Simons, Nurk, like having him, that's it's a good piece to have, and I really hope we don't move away from him unless it's for something that is clearly better. Um, yeah, let's.
Yeah, I don't think we will move away from him. His
I don't
contract
think
is
so
really
either.
team friendly, so that's always a bonus. Unless we're able to swing and trade for a superstar,
Exactly. Yeah.
still crossing my fingers for Katie asking out, but other than that, I don't see us trading him.
One other thing, just real quick, I want to talk because I just saw his name. Joe Ingles came out and made a comment about giving Portland a chance and staying here. I think Joe Ingles is the type of player that you would want on a team. He's got the veteran presence. He's a strong defensive player. So I would be fine with getting him on some kind of smaller contract. I mean, it's probably got to be a minimum coming off an ACL at his age, but I would be down for having him. I think he could really help Simons develop defensively, and other players just kind of given that defensive mindset. So I don't know about you, but I'd be okay with Joe Ingles.
Yeah, he's a really good locker room presence. But even before the ACL, this year was a little bit rough for him. But if he can even be like, half as good as he was the years before that, I think he would be a great value on the court. But even for a vet min, I think off the court he'd be a good leader for the young guys, a good vet presence. So I would be happy to keep him, even slightly more than a vet min. I'd probably be willing to do that, but I'm not gonna expect too much on the court. Anything he's able to do is just the cherry on top.
Yeah, I definitely think he brings value to us. So, one last thing I wanted to talk about before we get ready to wrap it up is what we kind of what we think the next year is going to look like. Obviously, we don't know where we're going to be in the draft yet. But we'll save that for a later podcast once we get closer to knowing kind of our final spot in the draft and knowing what happens with the Pelicans pick. We'll probably talk about that. But to me, I see Lillard, I see Simons, I see Josh Hart, I see Nasir Little, Watford, Nurk, and then
Oh, we haven't talked about Watford today, but like we have covered
y-
him a lot.
yeah,
I'm such a fan already.
yeah, I think he's one of those guys that we are so lucky that we had and like we signed him for so
He's
cheap
an
because I think
undrafted rookie. Like that's
yes, I
insane.
think his value is going to far exceed his contract and we got him for 4 years if I remember right.
I think so, but like including
If
this year, so that's 3
yeah,
more.
he's going to keep developing and watching him play, you can already tell. As of right now, he's one of the best players on our team.
Yeah,
Like,
his touch around the rim is so good too.
yeah. I love Watford. Very
Anyways,
big
you were
on him.
saying?
Yeah. So, anyways, Nurk, Watford, Keon Johnson, I'm hoping that we get rid of CJ Ellaby. We don't re-sign him. I have to imagine that Bledsoe is going to be, what we had talked about, waiving him at the end of the season. But even if we don't, I mean, I'm sure there's some kind of value that we can get out of him. He's a decent player. He's defensive minded, and what did they call him? Mini LeBron, wasn't that his nickname for a while?
It was a long time ago, I think.
Yeah. So maybe we can get a little mini LeBron back. But is there obviously free agency? We have the money to spend, so there's definitely going to be a big roster change. But just from the starting five alone, just Lillard, Josh Hart, Simons, Nurkic, and either Watford or Nas. If that was our starting five, it's not the greatest starting five, but I like that little foundation that we have there, and you can definitely build on it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think, it's probably not a contender, but I think we will definitely be able to get back into the playoffs. Maybe win a round, maybe two if we can get another good piece in there. Through trades or probably not free agency, but yeah, through trades in the off season. Yeah, I like the fit between them. I think there's good defenders in there. There's obviously good scorers. I would be excited to root for that roster.
Yeah, and truly, anything is going to be better than what we've seen this year. I think next year we're already going to be better than what we've seen. Another player we haven't talked about.
2 or 3 years in a row now.
Yeah, true. Another player we haven't talked about, Justice Winslow. I think he's been playing pretty well for us, and I think if we end up keeping him and moving forward with him, I think that's a good piece to have. I do not see us being Tank City again next year unless something crazy happens to Lillard.
Yeah.
I don't see it. I mean, at one point this season without Lillard, we were like winning games, and we were like, okay, are we trying to lose or are we trying to win? Because we were still decent enough to win games. So I think we're in good hands. It's all just going to depend on the draft picks. It's going to depend on the offseason and if they really are going to build around Dame or not. So, I mean, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Not much. I think we can't do much but wait and see what happens with our picks in the offseason, and then after that, free agency will open up and we'll see. But right now, all we can do is, I guess we can talk about what we want to happen, but we can't really predict much.
Yeah. So before we wrap this up, we're not going to forget this. We have our trivia question here.
She did forget
that last trivia question turned out to be a pretty difficult one. We had a good amount. We almost had 20 responses to it, and only 4 people got it right. So the question was, who was the tallest Portland Trailblazer ever? A lot of people did Hashim. A lot of people did. I couldn't even say his name, but I remember us signing him. The I think he's from China. I don't even want to try to say it. I'm gonna slaughter it. So it was the Russian guy, and I can't say his name either. It looks like it's Slavko Vrains. Who knows if that's right or not? I think he was 7'6", if I remember right. That's what it was. He was 7'6". So to the 4 of you that did get it right, I put it on Discord, so there's a scoreboard. You guys can see the update. I think Fouad, you were one that got it right.
I think I was one of them.
So good on Fouad. He's got a +1 next to his name now. So for the next question, this is going to be a little bit easier. Actually, it's going to be a lot easier. Who was the first Trailblazer to win NBA Rookie of the Year? Was it Brandon Roy, Damian Lillard, Sidney Wicks, or Jeff Petrie? I will get a Google Documents form out there so everybody can vote on it and see how many we can get on this one. Do you have anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
Nope, I'm good. See you guys next week.
All right, and hopefully by next week we will have a little bit more understanding of where this team's headed. But until then, we'll be watching, we'll be rooting for the Blazers, and as always, Rip City, baby.